In the autumn of 2008, on a coral island in the middle of the Pacific, a 6-year-old company called SpaceX had money left for one more rocket launch. This one. The 3 before it had all failed. The first caught fire just after liftoff and fell into the sea. The second reached space, then a fuel slosh sent it rolling, and the engine quit, short of orbit. The third flew on a live feed, with a real payload aboard, and its 2 stages collided on separation and tore the rocket apart in front of the world. Every failure cost millions the company no longer had. Its founder had sunk nearly his whole fortune into it, just as the worst crash in 80 years swallowed the economy. By night, he was waking from nightmares, screaming. If this 4th rocket failed, there was no 5th. The engineers on that island knew it. One shot, to reach orbit or turn off the lights for good. What happened in the next 9 minutes, the time it takes to reach orbit, didn't just save the company. It's why, 18 years later, SpaceX would become one of the most valuable businesses on Earth. But to see how close it came, you have to start at the beginning. Go back 6 years. In 2002, Elon Musk, 30 years old, just paid out from the sale of PayPal, decided to spend that fortune building rockets. His thesis was almost suspiciously simple. Rockets were expensive because nobody built them to be cheap. The metal and the fuel were a tiny fraction of the cost. The rest was process, and the habit of throwing the whole rocket away after a single flight. Build something small and lean, and you could undercut an entire industry. So SpaceX started with Falcon 1, a rocket barely 68 feet tall, a few dozen engineers in a California warehouse, an engine led by one man named Tom Mueller, and a launch site about as remote as Earth gets, a speck of coral in the Pacific called Omelek. The plan was the thing the giants never did: fail, learn, fly again. The trouble is, each failure is a whole rocket, and SpaceX was burning money it didn't have. The first Falcon 1 flew in March 2006. 33 seconds up, a fuel leak caught fire and it fell back to the island, undone in the end by a single aluminum nut that had corroded in the sea air. The second, a year later, almost made it. It reached space, and then the fuel began to slosh, the rocket rolled, and the engine cut out seconds short of orbit. Close enough to be cruel. By the third, in August 2008, the rocket carried real satellites, one of them NASA's, and flew on a live webcast. The stages separated, and the spent first stage, still carrying the faintest thrust, drifted up and bumped the second. Gone. On camera, in front of everyone. 3 rockets, 3 failures, and now the bank was nearly empty. 2008 was, in Musk's own telling, the worst year of his life. He had put nearly everything he made from PayPal into SpaceX and a young car company called Tesla, and that autumn, as the worst crash in 80 years seized up the economy, both were failing at once. He was borrowing from friends to make rent. There was, by most accounts, enough left for exactly one more Falcon 1. The company had a spare, nearly finished. And here is the decision the whole story turns on. He chose not to save what was left and wind down quietly, but to spend it, to fly again, and to fly fast. The 4th rocket would go up just 8 weeks after the 3rd came apart. Everything was now riding on one launch, on one island, with one chance. September 28, 2008. The 4th Falcon 1 on the pad at Omelek. This time, the engineers had changed one thing. They'd added a longer pause between engine shutdown and stage separation, so the spent first stage could fall safely away before the second one lit. A small fix, learned from the rocket that bumped itself to death. It lifted off. First stage, clean. Separation, and this time, nothing touched. The second stage lit and began the long push to orbital speed. And then, the wait. 9 minutes, the time it takes to reach orbit, of one engine burning and a single line of telemetry holding steady, with the entire company hanging on it. Second stage cutoff. Orbit. Falcon 1 had become the first privately built, liquid-fueled rocket ever to reach orbit. 6 years, 3 failures, a spent fortune, a company at the edge of the cliff, all of it redeemed in 9 minutes. Reaching orbit didn't pay the bills, but it proved the only thing that mattered, that they could actually do it. And weeks later, on December 23rd, in the last days of that brutal year, NASA handed SpaceX a contract worth more than $1.5 billion to fly cargo to the space station. The launch had saved the company from dying that autumn. This secured its future. A near-simultaneous deal saved Tesla. Both companies that should have died in 2008 lived. Here's the part worth keeping on a business channel. The thing that nearly killed SpaceX, betting the whole company on the next flight, failing in public again and again, is the exact thing that built it. A corroded nut, a fuel slosh, a bump between 2 stages. Any one of them on that 4th flight, and there is no SpaceX, no reusable rockets, no Starlink, no Mars. It came down to one launch, and it held. 18 years later, that same company would stage the largest IPO in history. If you want more business stories told this way, subscribe. There's another already on the way. And in the comments, that 4th launch, the smartest bet in business or the luckiest? We read every one.